Hi, and welcome back to the Gold Level Exclusives 2013 at StampAcademy.com. Today's project is a little notebook holder, and you open it up. It's got these pockets here for storage, and the pen is held in by a ribbon. And when you open it up, you have another pocket for storage and a 3x5 notebook. And when this project closes up, it has magnets in the flap as well as the base, and then they click together to hold the whole thing together. It has pieces on the spine as well as the back. We're going to begin by taking the base Old Olive cardstock, and we're going to score it at 3 7/8, 4 5/8, 8 1/2, and 9 1/4. We're then going to turn this over and we're going to begin to assemble it. So before I actually adhere to the Old Olive piece, I'm going to set up the pieces with the Designer Series paper. So the first piece is this hexagon pattern, and it does have words, so make sure that you have it going in the correct direction. So you're going to center it on your early espresso and adhere. So now the back piece, you can just go ahead and adhere. The front piece actually has the magnets underneath it. So you can put the magnets between the cardstock and the Designer Series paper, or between the espresso cardstock and the Old Olive cardstock. These are extremely strong magnets. Depending upon where you get your magnets, how strong they are, and the thickness of them, you can then determine where you're going to place it. These are a little bit thicker, so I'm going to put them between the espresso cardstock and the olive cardstock. So I can then go ahead and take my Designer Series paper and adhere it to the actual cardstock. So I'm going to take the piece that's going to be on the back of my project, and I'm just going to put some snail on the back of it because I'm not worried about that piece coming off. So I'm going to just center that on the back here, and then I'm going to adhere it. So now to do the front flap, you're going to put sticky strip on both of your pieces, and we're going to line these up here and determine where we want our magnets to be. So I would like my magnet to be close to the edge on both sides here so that it'll get a nice adhesion. So what I'm going to do is turn over the piece of Early Espresso cardstock, and I'm going to take off this piece of sticky strip. And then I'm going to go ahead and place my magnets on both edges here. And what I think I'm going to do, because this is a long piece, is I'm actually going to put a third one in the center so that this is really going to snap shut tightly. So now these 3 magnets are stuck onto this sticky strip here. Now what you're going to do is take your glue dots and you're going to touch one glue dot to the center of each of your 3 magnets. You're then going to remove the adhesive backing from your remaining sticky strip pieces. And then you're going to turn it over and you're going to adhere it. And then you're going to go back to your magnets and you're just going to pull them off and allow them to adhere themselves to the existing magnets. You're going to go back to your glue dots and you're going to put a glue dot in the center of each of those magnets. What this is going to do is give you perfect placement when you take your flap and you turn it over. Make sure you line it up correctly, and then when you let it go, those magnets are going to adhere to this side. Next, remove the backing to the sticky strip on that piece of cardstock. Now what I'm going to do to this piece here is I'm going to run a piece of sticky strip down this whole row of magnets here to hold them in place. So I'm just going to put my sticky strip right over those 3 magnets to adhere them to my cardstock. You're going to remove the backing to the adhesive, and then you're very carefully going to center your cardstock on top of the front of your project and adhere. Now those magnets are trapped underneath, and when this piece adheres to this one, you'll hear that click. And now you know that it's together. We're going to put some adhesive on our side pieces. I just adhered the Designer Series paper to the cardstock, and you can adhere this with sticky strip or snail or glue dots, whatever is easier for you. You're just going to adhere them to the spine of both sides of your project. Now when you're doing this, it's a good idea to make sure that you're lining up your pieces of cardstock so that they're all together, because the sticky strip is so sticky. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult. Don't spend too much time worrying about it. Just do the best that you can. Now we're going to move on to the inside of the project. The insert is going to be scored at 3 5/8 and 4 1/8. Take your bone folder and bend back on those score lines and just give it a little press. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take one of our Textured Impressions folders. This one is honeycomb, and we're going to do the honeycomb pattern on the front flap of this piece. So we're going to just center that on that piece, and then you want to make sure that that score line is on the flap. Now, if you see the Stampin' Up! Logo, you know that this will impress in the correct direction. You're going to sandwich this between 2 cutting plates, and you're going to put this on a multi-purpose platform that is fully open, because I'm bending my cardstock back. You sandwich it between your 2 cutting plates, and you're going to run it through the Big Shot. Now, while you have that Textured Impressions folder out, you're going to take your other piece of espresso cardstock, and you're going to do exactly the same thing, where you sandwich it between 2 cutting plates and you run it through the Big Shot. You're going to put adhesive back here on that one piece that's going to be your inside flap, and I'm just using snail on this, and then you're just going to adhere that right there to the inside of your project. We're going to be using Designer Series paper to create little pockets on the inside. And to do that, we're going to be using our Big's Scallop Envelope die. And you're going to take a piece of your Designer Series paper and just put that right over the die. You're going to sandwich that between 2 cutting plates, and then you're going to run this through the Big Shot. Now what you're going to do with this is you're gently going to fold on those crease lines. And then you're going to take some liquid glue. And the reason I like to use liquid glue on this is because you really just want a small bead on the sides here, because this is going to adhere it to these pieces. So you're just going to hold those down and then adhere those sides. Just give them a rub and they'll stay nicely. Now normally you would fold this in to do a little envelope. What I would like you to do is fold it back. And then you're going to run another bead of this glue across the flap there. And then we're going to close that flap so that our flap is going to show on the front, but the actual pocket will be in the back. We're then going to adhere these pieces to our cardstock, again using sticky strip. You can use the liquid glue if you feel more comfortable with that. I like to make sure that I get a nice strong bond so that if someone puts something in these little envelopes, it doesn't pull them off of the paper. So I'm just going to put my sticky strip on all sides here. And then you're going to remove the sticky strip backing from both of those pockets. And then you're going to carefully line them up on the project and adhere. You're going to do exactly the same thing with an early espresso pocket. And again, you're going to adhere that little flap to the outside. To adhere our pen to this piece here, we're going to be using some early espresso ribbon. I cannot stress enough how easy it is to craft when you have products that coordinate together. So you have your early espresso ribbon, your early espresso cardstock, your early espresso ink, and then your Designer Series paper that also coordinate with our cardstocks. So I'm going to take a piece of ribbon that's probably about 15 inches, and what I'd like to do is just fold it in half. I'm going to just hook this little pen onto the ribbon at that loop there. You're then going to take one of the little mini glue dots. I like to pick them up with my paper piercer. And you're just going to place that right here on the ribbon so that you can form a little loop. So that loop is then going to hold this in place. I'm going to position it so that that can be on the inside here. And I'm going to stretch this ribbon across my project and around the back. What I'm going to do to adhere it is put a piece of sticky strip first along the back, across the side, and then along the front. And this is going to be hidden by my Designer Series paper, so I'm not too worried about that. I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to remove my adhesive backing, and I'm going to begin adhering it on the front. So I'm going to hide this here because I want that to be tucked into the inside. I'm going to stretch my ribbon across the front of my project, and then just stretch it right around the back there so that it holds. And I'm going to have that ribbon held down by that sticky strip. I'm then going to cover that with some more sticky strip. So I'm going to go across the whole back here. And then I've trapped that ribbon in the sticky strip as well. Then you're going to go ahead and remove the backing to all of those strips. You're then going to very carefully line that up and adhere to your project. And that's going to trap the ribbon inside. You're going to open that up, and you're going to take that little envelope that you've created, put sticky strip on the back, and you're going to adhere it right there to that inside flap. Now we're going to decorate the outside flap. So you remember that your ribbon is going to wrap around your pen. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take another glue dot or two, and I'm just going to make sure that this whole thing is secured in place so that it's a nice little tight hold on my pen there. I've stamped The Best Things in Life Aren't Things, and that's from the Feel Goods stamp set. And that's a great set to use, especially if you're making a project for friends. I'm going to take my Early Espresso ink and a little Stampin' Sponge. This is just 1/4 of a sponge. And I'm just going to really put some ink on the sides of this framelit. And so it's going to give it a really distressed look. Now, to cut that out, after I stamped it and embossed it, I used the 3rd framelit from the inside. That's counting out 1, 2, 3. This is the Labels Collection framelits, and that's how I cut out that piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. And now I'm going to take a different pattern in that same Designer Series paper pack, and I'm going to be using the Apothecary Arts framelits, and I'm going to use the largest one. I'm going to center that on my Designer Series paper, sandwich it between 2 cutting plates, and run it through the Big Shot. When it comes out, I'm going to have this great piece of designer paper to decorate this inside panel. I just put some snail back there, and I'm going to center this right here on the front of my project. I put 6 Stampin' Dimensionals on the back of my piece of Very Vanilla cardstock. And the reason I put so many is sometimes when you emboss cardstock, the heat will actually warp it a little bit, and I want to make sure that it lays perfectly flat. I'm going to line this up over that, and then I'm going to adhere that right there in the center. And that's going to give me the inside of my project. So now to dress up the flap on the outside here, we're going to be using our Designer Builder Brads, and we're just going to take one of them, and then we're going to be using the 3/8 inch circle punch from the mini punch pack. We're going to be using the scrap that's left over from when we used our framelit to create the Apothecary Arts punch, and we're going to just punch out that little circle. Again, it's 3/8 of an inch. You're going to just touch a mini glue dot to the back of that, and then center that over the center of your Build-A-Brad, and then use this little piece that comes with it to just cover it, and you have a nice little bubble on there. Now you can adhere this to the cardstock using a 1/16 punch, and I suggest if you would like to do that, you're going to do that before you adhere your cardstock. What I'm going to do instead is I'm just going to flatten my brad legs here, and I'm just going to press it down so that it's nice and flat, and then I'm going to just put a couple of glue dots on the back of it, and I'm going to just adhere it to the front of the project. So I'm going to center that on there and then just press down to adhere it. So now to complete this project, I took a 3x5 notepad and I put sticky strip all over the back of it. I used pieces all around the side and then a strip that goes diagonally across the center. You're going to carefully line this up over the center of your project and adhere. When you close that up, you're going to fold this flap first, and then you're going to hear it click. and it magnetically closes together. So this is a great little project. The designer has done one in Tea for Two, which is a very similar paper. This is a little more vintage. This is from the This and That collection. And again, the inside is coordinated with the same designer series paper, just a different pattern. You're Such an Amazing Friend, and the same detail on this project as well. So that has been your 3D project for the Gold Level Exclusives 2013 for today. If you have any questions for us, as always, we are at mail@stampacademy.com.